Okay, good morning everyone. We are on Kuf Zayin Amud Aleph. If you look, we only have a few blot left. The schedule this week will be regular, except that we might, for Wednesday, it's only one Amud, so we might stop a little bit earlier. So today we'll stop at the two dots on Kuf Zayin Amud Beis on the bottom. And again, we'll make a Siyum Wednesday night at the Shloshim for Joyce Feinberger. You're a DAF YOMI regular? He's a chassan tomorrow. Okay, you're welcome to join us. We're at a Mishnah. Kuf Zayin Amud Aleph. It's MENACHOS. It's easy. Don't worry. Harei yayin. So if a person says that I'm taking upon myself a voluntary wine libation. Now we know that in general, when you bring an animal, so you usually bring a mincha with it, which is flour and oil, and you bring wine with it. So now you want to bring a wine libation separate. You want to just bring wine as a korban. And you want to bring shemen as a korban. So if you remember, we had another Mishnah which said everybody agrees you could bring wine, and there was a machlokas whether you're allowed to bring shemen by itself as a korban. This Mishnah, as we'll see in a second, is going to assume that it's okay to bring shemen by itself, just like it's okay to bring wine by itself. Harei yayin, if a person says, I'm going to bring a voluntary korban of yayin, lo yivchos mishlosha lukin. So all you say is, I'm going to bring wine. The question is, how much wine do you need to bring? So what we're going to do is we're going to look where we bring wine elsewhere, and based on how much you need to bring there, that's how much you need to bring now. What's the minimum amount of wine that we bring elsewhere? Well, when you bring an animal, the minimum amount of wine that you bring with an animal, if you remember, we had the 3, 4, and 6. So the minimum amount of wine that you'll bring with an animal is 3. Therefore, when you're going to bring self-standing wine, we're going to make you bring only the minimum amount. Again, we're going to see there's going to be a different case when you specify something. But if here all you said is, I'm going to bring wine, harei yayin, so we require you to bring the minimum amount of wine that's elsewhere, which is 3 lug. Shemen, if you say I'm going to bring shemen, lo yivchos mi lug, then you can get away with only bringing 1 lug. Because where? Because we have a mincha. We know that the lowest type of mincha is what? When you bring a regular mincha. So we know that the minimum amount of shemen that comes with a mincha is 1 lug of shemen. Therefore, one of them, again, yayin, you're learning from the minimum amount of wine that's brought with the korban, and shemen, you're learning from the minimum amount of shemen that's brought with the mincha, which is brought with the korban. Rabbi omer shlosha lugin. We'll have to explain. So Rabbi seems to say that even by shemen, you need to bring 3 lug. We'll have to see exactly why Rabbi says that. Rabbi says that because Rabbi is going to compare shemen to yayin and not shemen to the shemen of a mincha. We'll see exactly what that means in a minute. Perashi ve'eni yodea ma perashi. So here he doesn't say harei yayin. He says, I promised to bring wine, and I promised to bring a certain amount of wine, I just don't remember how much. If you just say, I promised to bring wine, you can get away with bringing the minimum amount of wine, because you didn't specify a certain amount. So I promised to bring wine. We say, you can bring a lot of wine, but you can also get away with the minimum amount. But if I say, I'm getting old, and I promised to bring a certain amount of wine, I just don't remember how much, well now we need to be choshesh, not for the minimum amount, but for the maximum amount. So therefore we said when we had this by mincha, we had to be choshesh, you have to bring 60 sarona flour. So now when we're dealing with liquids, what's the maximum amount? It would be the maximum amount of wine or oil that would be brought on a specific day with korbanos. If again, you're assuming that the whole basis is how much wine or oil you bring elsewhere with korbanos. So then what's the maximum amount? We'll see exactly what that means. So it says, Amar kiyavi kiyom meruba. You'll have to bring, as we'll see in a second, 148 lug, which is a lot. Don't forget how much you said. Either just say harei yayin, but don't say a certain amount and then forget. If you're going to say it, write it down. Because if not, you got to bring 148 lug of yayin or wine, which of yayin or shemen, depending on which one you said. Remember, we had this also similar. Perashi, when you did perashi, that's when we had the whole discussion. 1 in 1, 2 in 1, 3 in 1, 4 in 1, 5 in 1, because we had to go all possible combinations, depending on if a kli, out of a kli, etc. So when you're just general, you can bring the minimum. When you say I was specific, I just don't remember, you got to bring the maximum, because you might have been the maximum. Then if you bring the minimum, then you're not going to necessarily be yotzei your neder. Says the Gemara, Taner Rabbanan, Ezrach. We have 2 different psukim that we're going to deal with. The word Ezrach is a pasuk by Nisachim, by obligatory Nisachim. So the word Ezrach, parshanut Nisachim ksiv, kol Ezrach yaseh kacha, kra yiserehu. Gemara says in Bamidbar Tezvav. Anybody have a chumash here? Yeah, an article even. I'll take that, please. What pasuk is it? Tezvav Yud Gimel. Gemara in Tezvav Yud Gimel says, Kol Ezrach yaseh kacha es eila, la'akriv yishereach nichoach l'Hashem. This is talking about different libations, as I would have thought. You bring a korban, So you bring an obligatory nesachim with it. You have to bring a certain amount of shemen, you have to bring a certain amount of yayin, and then it says kol azrach yasa kacha, and the word kol azrach yasa kacha is extra. So there's an extra kol azrach when you're talking about bringing obligatory libations. So by obligatory libations, there's an extra word. Therefore, what? We learned that not only can you bring obligatory libations, what else can you bring? You could bring voluntary libations as well. Ezrach melamed shemisnad v'in yayin. You could bring a voluntary libation of wine. V'kama, how much you have to bring? Shlosha lugin. So that's what we said. You bring a minimum of 3 lugin because we have a precedent elsewhere that when you bring wine, you don't bring less than 3. Uminayin sheim ratza lahosav yosef. Talmud-gemara yihiyah. It says the word yihiyah. You could have more. V'yachol yifchos talmud-gemara kacha. No, kacha. It needs to be at least this amount. But yihiyah, it could be as much as you want. So it has to be a minimum of 3 again, but a maximum of whatever you want. So that's by yayin. We learned yayin from obligatory nesachim. Shemen le'yifchos min alug Rebbe Mer shlosha lugin b'maykom v'lugin. So what exactly are Rebbe and the Rabbanan arguing about when it comes to shemen? They all agree that by yayin you got to bring 3. Question is, what's the argument by shemen? Rabbanan kamei Rav Papa bidon mina bidon mina ve'okim ba'asra kamifli. We had this before. You're going to see a lot of overlap. There's a discussion over here when you have don mina, when you learn from somewhere, when you have a source. The question is, you learn the obligation from the source. Do you then need to learn all the details from the source as well? Don mina means that if you're learning from a source, that there's even an obligation to do something, or you're allowed to bring shemen, let's say. So yayin, again, the source of yayin is what? Is the source of yayin is pashut. The source of yayin is the obligatory yayin nesachim. By the obligatory yayin nesachim, the details are also the same. Don mina. Everybody can hold don mina. Therefore what? You can learn from the source. From the source is what? It's 3 lug. Therefore there's nothing to talk about. Question is by shemen now. So let's assume that we learn don mina. Then the question is umina or ve'okim ba'asra. So we could either learn shemen from the source of shemen being yayin, and then have to learn all the details of yayin, which is 3 lugin, or we could learn it from somewhere else, and then maybe not necessarily learn it from yayin. So let's see. Don mina means you got to learn everything, the source and the details. Don mina ve'okim ba'asra means you can learn the source, but then ve'okim ba'asra, then you can find a case that's similar to it, and then learn the details from somewhere else. That's what the Gemara says. So what do we see? Rabbanan Savri, the Rabbanan would say that shemen, you could bring even a lug, don mina umina. Well, what's the source that you could bring a voluntary korban of shemen in the first place? And again, this is not like the Mandamar who we said elsewhere, who says you can't bring a self-standing korban of shemen in the first place at all. So where do we see? Ma mincha misnadvin. There's another pasuk. The pasuk says in Vayikra, ki takriv korban mincha. And they learn that the extra word korban is extra. It could have just said ki takriv mincha. Ki takriv korban mincha, which is not by, again, the extra word ezrach was by obligatory nesachim. The word mincha is by a korban mincha, a voluntary mincha. So what do we learn? We see that there's an extra word by a voluntary mincha, and we learn that ma mincha misnadvin. So the extra word teaches me just like a mincha can be voluntary, av shemen nami misnadvin. I can also bring shemen voluntarily. Now we know, again, we had the whole discussion by mincha. If you say I'm going to bring a vincha and you're going to bring a voluntary, and I don't remember, you got to bring all 5 types. There's 5 types of voluntary minchas. But again, the source of shemen, not like the source of yayin. The source of yayin is obligatory yayin nesachim. The source of shemen is a voluntary korban mincha. So now the question becomes, if I'm learning from a korban mincha, that's the don mina. I learned that I can bring shemen from a voluntary mincha. The question is, do I need to go all out? Well, if I need to go all out, which is what we originally thought, then what's the halacha? What are the details by a voluntary mincha? What's the minimum amount? 1 log of shemen. Therefore, if I say umina ma mincha belug, av shemen belug, just like by a voluntary mincha I get away, quote unquote, with a lug of shemen, I can get away with a voluntary shemen korban with a lug. However, Rebbe savar don mina ve'oki be'asra. Yes, I need ma mincha misnadvin, av shemen nami misnadvin. He agrees that I need the word korban by a mincha, by a voluntary mincha, to teach me that I could even bring shemen in the first place. Just like I could bring a mincha voluntarily, I could bring shemen voluntarily. However, ve'oki be'asra. But now when I go ahead, once I know that there's an allowance to bring shemen as a self-standing korban, I don't learn the details of how much shemen that is from the source, which was a korban mincha that was voluntary. Where do I learn it from? Kinesachim. I learned it from something that it's similar to. Now if we freeze, and I don't ask you, well, where did you learn that from? If I just freeze and say, shemen can be brought as a voluntary korban. If I stop you and I freeze you there and I don't know what happened beforehand, so now I ask you, well, what should we compare this to? Should we compare this to shemen that's in a mincha? Or should we compare this to yayin? So says the Gemara, you would think then it makes more sense to compare it to another self-standing liquid that's brought as a korban, i.e. yayin. Yayin, nobody disagrees, has to be 3 lug. So why would I think to compare it to shemen that's mixed with flour in a voluntary mincha when I can compare it to oil, when I compare it to wine, which is a self-standing korban that's a liquid. That's oki ba'asra. So I got the source, even though now I don't remember so. Not that I don't remember. Now we're going to ignore that fact. I got the source from a voluntary mincha. But at the end of the day, now when it makes sense to compare, okay, now, well, Lamaisa, how much do I need to bring? It makes more sense to compare it to shemen that's not mixed with flour, i.e. to yayin that's self-standing. Again, one can argue the other way. What do you mean? It makes sense to compare shemen to shemen. But one can also make the argument, va'oki ba'asra. Again, that's why the first opinion says, do mina, mina. You learn from shemen across the board. This one says, no, at the end of the day, once you have 2 self-standing liquid korbanos, you're going to keep them the same. That's the argument. Says Gemara, Kinesachim, Manesachim, Shloshas Lugin, Avshemen Nami Shosh Lugin. Rashi says in Naisi, Va'oki Ba'asra, Binesachim, Deshemen Haba Bifnei Atzmo Have Kinesachim, Dumya Yayin. When you're bringing shemen by itself, it's similar to bringing yayin by itself. Says Gemara, Melhu Rav Papa, it's beautiful. However, why do we have to establish, if we're going to try to establish that there's a machlokes, why do we have to go so extreme? We'd rather establish machlokes being on like a technical detail. There was something small that they argued about. This is a huge argument. Do mina mina, do mina va'oki ba'asra. This is a huge overarching argument that's going to be everywhere in Shas. Why do we have to establish it like that? Why can't we just establish it that there's another detail that they're arguing about? What does that mean? Imi mincha gomer la Rebbe. Rav Papa says, if in fact the way you're saying that everybody agrees that what's the source that you can even bring shemen in the first place as a voluntary mincha, as a voluntary korban, what's the source? The voluntary mincha. If that's true, dekuli amalo pligi domi nomina. That even Rebbe is going to say, if the source is in fact a voluntary mincha, for sure we're going to learn the amount from the voluntary mincha as well. And he's going to agree that the minimum is going to be a lug. However, Ella Rebbe me ezrach gomer la. It must be that Rebbe doesn't learn that the source of bringing shemen in the first place is from a voluntary mincha. He learns that the source of bringing shemen in the first place is the same source that you could bring yayin as a separate korban in the first place, which is what? Which is ezrach, which is a obligatory nesachim. And if that's true, so then what? So then it's not do mina. Everybody agrees do mina mina. It's just that they're arguing about what the source is. One of them says do mina mina, and the source is mincha. The source is voluntary mincha, therefore it's only 1 lug, that's the Rabbanan. And Rebbe says, no, it's don't mina mina, but the source is not mincha, the source is yayin, obligatory yayin, and therefore, just like obligatory yayin needs to have 3 lug, so too, shemen, which is learned from obligatory yayin directly from the word ezrach, needs to have 3 lug. Only if we're not Breder Rav Nassan, Rav Papa, Mimatzah Samrizachi, it's a beautiful pshar, Rav Papa, I really like it. It's only one problem, you're missing a brisa. V'atanya, because what do we say? Korban melamed shemisnavdin shemen, v'kama shloshas lugin. So concentrate on the last 3 words. V'kama shloshas lugin, who's that? Who says? That's Rebbe. What did we just say the source of Rebbe is? Ezrach. Well, read the beginning of that brisa. Korban melamed shemislavdin shemen. The source of Rebbe is korban, which is what? Which is mincha. So how can you suggest that what? That we're going to go ahead and learn shemen from yayin? We clearly say we don't learn shemen from yayin. Now we're back to shemen from mincha. Well, the only way to explain it now is he learns domina mina, and he learns domina va'oki ba'asra. Now it's interesting to point out that, in my opinion, if the Tanaim, right, had all of the brisas, they wouldn't have forgotten it. It's not like Rav Papa forgot, or if he's a Mora, it's not like Rav Papa forgot this brisa. He says, oh yeah, right, Rebbe has that brisa. He might not have had the brisa, right? We don't have like the Gemaras here. It was quoted in some other yeshiva. He never heard about it. Therefore, he didn't know about it. As soon as he hears about it, this is his svara. His svara is to try to figure out, well, how do we make the 2 things stim together? We say domi no mi no. We say that they have different limudim that they're learning it from. Once I hear that Rebbe, in fact, doesn't learn it from Ezrach and he learns it from Korban, then I'm going to take back what I said. I'm not going to argue on that price. That's a fact. I just didn't know that. Had I had a Gemara that was printed all of Shas, then it would be like us. We would remember everything that we learned, and he would have known the whole Shas by heart. But at the end of the day, he didn't have that brisa. Therefore, when he finds out that, in fact, Rebbe doesn't learn it like he suggested, he doesn't learn it from Ezrach, he learns it from Korban, now he's stuck. Because now he can't say his answer, well, Rebbe learns it from Ezrach, because he knows that Rebbe doesn't learn it from Ezrach. Therefore, you have Rebbe and the Rabbanan both learning it from Korban. from the mincha. Therefore, the only way to explain why one says 1 log and one says 3 log is one of them says domino mina, therefore 1 log, domino ve'oki ba'asra is Rebbe, therefore you learn it from the yayin. Says the Gemara, 1 second, man shamas le amar shoshalugin Rebbe v'kamaisi la me korban. So that's where they say to Rav Papa, amar le Tanya Tanya. I didn't have that. If it's been taught, then it's been taught, and I retract. And therefore I agree that I can't say what I suggested, that Rebbe is going to learn from Ezra, he learns from Korban, and therefore at the end of the day, I retract what I said, and it comes out that the argument is in fact domina ve'oki mi'asra versus domino mina.
Do they always accept all of the brises that somebody else has?
No, they can argue in the brises, but it's clear that here Rebbe said that. I mean, it's clear from here that Rav Papa felt that, again, his was in Svara, and this was a brisa that we already had from elsewhere. It sounds like he understood. You're right, if he had a Kabbalah that Rebbe said something else, maybe that would be true. But it sounds like this was his Svara that he was suggesting. And when he found out that Rebbe doesn't in fact hold of that limud, then he went back. Again, there would be people today that would still try to find a way to argue, but saying he didn't want to do that. He wanted to go ahead and he wanted to agree, because it sounds like it was based on his Svara. Says the Gemara, Pirashi, we said if I specified a certain amount of yayin or shemen, so if I just say harei alai yayin, harei alai shemen, I can bring the minimum. If I say I specify a certain amount, I don't remember, you have to bring the maximum amount that I might have specified. Again, I would only have specified, I would not have specified more than the maximum amount that's brought on any specific day. That's why, again, the minimum that I say by mincha, if I say pirashi, I have to bring 60 so on a flour. Over here, I'd have to bring whatever's brought. What's brought on, which day has the maximum amount of yayin and or wine brought, yayin and or shemen brought on it? Tana bayom tov rishon shel chag shechal yos b'Shabbos. The first day of Sukkot that falls on Shabbos, because Sukkot has so many korbanos, and it's Shabbos, you have all the korban muslim and stuff. How many is that? 1 second. 148. 148 log of shemen or yayin, that's the amount that you have to bring. So if I say pirashi v'einu yodea ma pirashi for yayin or shemen, you have to bring 148 log. So again, either don't specify, or if you specify, write it down, because you're going to end up bringing either 148 times what you had to, or 50 times what you had to. Zak the Mishnah. Harei alai ola. Does anybody have an article here?
Yeah.
You have an article, you have an article. So if you look, on the bottom of the article there's a chart. Yeah. The chart tells us that there's 3 types of animals, and each one is a male or female. So what does that mean? You have bakar, which is cattle. Each one has, there's bakar, which is cattle, there's son, which is sheep, and there's izim, which are goats. So you have cattle, sheep, and goats. Within each category, you have 4 different types of animals. You have a young and an old in the first year, and then after the first year, and then you have a male and female. So just quickly, when we're dealing with the cattle, so the male adult cattle is a par, the female adult cattle is a para. The young bakar cattle is an egel male, and the young female bakar is an egla. So you have par, para, egla, and egel. By a sheep, you have the adult male is an ayil, a ram. The adult female is a rachla, is rechela, which is a ewe. The young sheep is a keves / tala, a lamb. And the young sheep of a female is a kivsa / talia, a lamb as well.
Under 1 year, though, no?
Within the first year. Yeah. Within the first year. The izim, which are the goats, so the adult goat male would be sa'ir, a he-goat. The adult female would be a se'ira, a she-goat. And the young goat male would be a gedi, a kid, and the young female would be a gediya, another kid. Okay? Says the Gemara. Why does that matter? Because we're going to see that if you say harei alai ola, we'll have to bring certain things. Says the Gemara. Says the Mishnah, harei alai ola. So you say I have to bring an ola. So you didn't specify which type now. So you haven't specified anything. An ola can come only from a male, Rashi points out. So it's got to be one of those 6. So which are going to be cheaper? Obviously the young are going to be cheaper than the old. So it's got to be one of the 3 young ones that you can bring an older one. But if we're going to say what do we require you to bring? One of the 3. Which is the cheapest of the 3? Of the young bakar male, or the young sheep male, or the young aiz male? Which is the cheapest? Yafi keves. So the young sheep male is going to be the lamb. The lamb is going to be the cheapest. So you have to bring a lamb at least. You can bring more. You could bring a calf, you could bring a kid, you could bring seemingly a he-goat or a ram or a bull, but you have to bring at least a lamb. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, or Torah ben Yonah. He actually says you don't have to bring a lamb, you could bring even less than that. You could bring a pigeon or a turtle dove. We'll see in a second in the Gemara that they're not arguing. It's machlokas and mitzius, that in his place it was cheaper to bring a lamb, and in his place it was actually cheaper to bring a pigeon or a turtle dove. So they both agree Again, because besides for the category of these three animals, you also have some birds that can be brought as an ola. So they're arguing about what's the minimum. Well, it depends. The minimum would be whatever's cheapest. In his place, it was a keves. In his place, it was a bird. Now, if you say perashti, so that's where you said harei alai ola. You could bring the cheapest, like we said before. Harei alai something, you bring whatever the cheapest is. But now you say, I know that I said I'm going to bring an ola, and I specified the type of ola that it was. So now you're stuck. Because now perashti mina bakar ve'eni yodea ma perashi. If you say I specified a bakar, a cattle, and I'm just not sure which one it was. Well, what are the two options for a bakar? Either an adult bakar or a young bakar. Again, they're both males. They have to be a male. So either you specified a par or an egel. Which one do you have to bring? Both. Both. You can only bring the cheap one when you don't specify anything. When you just say harei alai ola, then you can bring the cheapest of them. But when you say I specified something specific, I just don't remember, so now it's possible that you actually specified a par. So the Gemara says you have to bring both. You have to bring the young one, because you might have specified the young one, but you have to bring a par because you specified the old one. Says the Gemara, Pirashi min abak ve'nudeh ma pirashi yavi par ve'egel. If I say Pirashti that what? Min ha-behema, that I'm going to bring an ola from a behema, so now behema includes all three categories. So now what do you need to bring? You need to bring all the males. Young and old of the cattle, the sheep, and the goat. Min ha-behema ve'nudeh ma pirashi, you got to bring 6. Yavi par ve'egel, to cover the cattle males. Ayil seir, that's the adult sheep and adult goat. Gedi v'tala, that's the kid goat and the kid sheep, male. So now you got to bring all 6. Pirashi ve'eni yodea ma pirashi, now you're really stuck. I said I'm going to bring an ola, and I don't remember which ola I said I'm going to bring. I don't remember if I said I'm going to bring an animal ola, I'm going to bring a bird ola. Now you got to bring all the males plus the 2 birds. Mosiv alein, tor u ben yona, not or, both. So now you got to bring all 6 of these plus the 2 birds that are possible. Because in the other one you said behema, it doesn't have to be, you remember that you promised a behema, not a bird. Fine. That's by ola. Got it? Harei alai todo shlamim. Now it's even worse. Because what? Well, first of all, harei alai todo shlamim, a toda or a shlamim. So now this is, okay, you didn't specify anything specific. I just said I'm going to bring a toda. So we know that a toda can come from what? A male or a female. That's the chiddush here. So a toda shlamim come from a male or a female. So what do you do? Yavi keves or a kifsa. Again, you can bring whatever you want, but if we're going to require you to bring the minimum will be the male or female young sheep, the kives or the kifsa. Therefore, if we say harei alai toda or harei alai shlamim, we only require you to bring the cheapest of all the animals. Peirashti min habakar. If I said I'm going to bring a toda, let's just say a toda, but a shlamim is the same thing. If I said I'm going to bring a toda from bakar, but I don't know which one, ve'eni yodea ma pirashi, now you got to bring what? All 4. Because it could have been that I specified a female adult, a female kid, a male adult, a male kid. So now I got to bring all 4. Yavi par upara, egel ve'egla. Now it's even worse. Again, it would be the same thing if I say minatzon, you have to bring those 4. Mina'izim, I have to bring those 4. Now if I say mina behema, got to bring all 12.
What if you can't afford this? What happens?
So then you end up bringing whatever, you'd have to bring a mincha, I guess.
But what happens to your nadava or your?
You bring whatever, I don't know, but I guess you wouldn't fulfill it, or you bring whatever you can. You're over on a nadava that you can't bring. I guess so. Mina behema, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Well, you want to bring what you said. Again, don't say a certain amount, and if you do, write it down. Mina behema ve'eni yodea ma perashti. You got to bring all 12. Yavi paru para, egel ve'egla. That covers the 4 bakar. Ayil v'rachla sar u'seira. That covers the 4 adult izim / shon. Sar u'seira. Gediu gedia talo tliya. That covers the 4 young son / goats. That's that case. Fine. Now harei alai shor. So now you got to bring a shor. So we know you got to bring a shor. Now the question becomes, when I say I'm going to bring an animal, again, they're covering all bases here. So there's no way out. Harei alai shor. We know you have to bring a certain amount. You have to bring a shor. The cheapest shor is a mana. So you have to spend a mana on a shor. The question is, does that mana include the other things that come with it, i.e. the korban mincha and the yain, or you got to buy that above and beyond? Harei alai shor yavehu unisachav b'mana. You can include within the mana price, because we assume that it's a mana. Rashi says, kach nisparej dino b'torah she'ba'al peh. There are those who argue, but these 5 words say that Rashi says that we're about to follow in the Mishnah. This is all halach l'moshe misinai. Because why should a shor be dafka mana? Why don't we say that when you say you're going to bring a shor, you have to spend $1,000 on the shor? Why do we say a mana? It's based on halach l'moshe misinai. It's based on the Torah that Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu. So if I say I'm going to bring a shor, the halach l'moshe misinai is that you got to bring a shor worth of mana. The question is, does that mana again? Can I spend the mana on only the shor, Or can I also go ahead and say I'll take a shore worth 9/10 of a mana, and the other 10th of a mana I'll be able to buy the yayin and the korban mincha that's going to come with the shore. So Gemara says that you can buy everything with that mana. Egel yavihu nesachav b'chamesh. A mana is 100 dinar. An egel, so we have Lachman Shuksinai, that the egel is going to be 5 slime, which is 20 dinar. If you say ayil, yavihu nesachav b'shtayim, 2 sela is going to be 8 dinar. Keves yavihu nesachav b'sela, 4 dinar. So that's when you say, if you just have to bring a shore, an ayil, a keves, etc., you can, whatever the amount that you have to spend on that, you can also use that money and include the yayin and the mincha as well. But now if I say, not that I'm going to bring a shore, but I'm going to bring a shore b'maneh, now it's clear that you're excluding the yayin and the mincha from the money, and you have to spend an actual money on the shore, then you have to take out of your pocket to buy the other things as well. We know, just going back to your question, Rabbi, that if you can't afford like the yayin and the mincha, then the temple kicks in and it buys the yayin and mincha because it can't be brought without the yayin and mincha. That's what we discussed. But we didn't necessarily discuss if you can't afford this, then seemingly, again, either you'll bring regular mincha, the poor man's thing, or you'll be over your shua. Says shor b'maneh yavi b'maneh chutz minasachav, egel b'chamesh yavi b'chamesh chutz minasachav, ayil b'shtayim yavi b'shtayim chutz minasachav, keves b'sela yavi b'sela chutz minasachav. So now you went ahead and you specified that you're actually going to spend the money or whatever the amount is on the actual animal. You got to go above and beyond to spend it on the nisachim for the wine and the mincha. Now what happens if I say shor b'maneh? So we said you have to bring a maneh or the shor. Obviously v'hevi shnayim b'maneh. When I say shor b'maneh, it can't be that I can bring 2 together to equal a money. I can't bring a half a money. Lo yatsa. It needs to be a whole shore of money. Not only does that money have to be just for the shore and not for the yayin and the mincha, it also, I can't mix and match. I can't say, oh, I meant 2 shores for money. No, you said 1 shore for money. A shore is a shore is a shore. Says Gemara, afilu zeb b'maneh chasadin, zeb b'maneh chasadin. If it's a little bit less on the money, you can't combine. Shachar v'hevi lavan. Lavan v'hevi shachar. If I promise to bring a certain type of animal, I can't bring a different type. Gadol v'hevi katan lo yatsa. However, katan v'hevi gadol yatsa. I can upgrade. If I say I'm going to bring a young bakar, I'm going to bring an egel, then I can bring a par. I can upgrade. But if I say I'm going to bring a par, I obviously can't bring an egel. So the only thing that you're allowed to do is you're allowed to upgrade. You can't change types, lavan, shachar, shachar, lavan, different types of quality of hides. But if I go ahead and I say I'm going to bring a young animal of a certain type, I can bring the old one and I can upgrade. Rebbe Omer lo yatsa. No, Rebbe says no. It is what it is. You say you're going to bring the young one, you got to bring the young one, you can't even upgrade. You got to keep your word. That's the Mishnah. Zak the Gemara, v'lo pligi, like I mentioned, the first case, where you say, Harei alai ola, so the cheapest one is either a keves, or Rabbi Ben Azariah argues and says, no, you can bring a bird. Again, that's just a regular ola. Both of them can fit as an ola. Says the Gemara, v'lo pligi, mar kiyasrei, umar kiyasrei. Gemara says, no, they were each arguing about their specific place, but asrei the Tanakama, the keves was cheaper than an oaf, and in Rabbi Elazar's place, the oaf was cheaper. Again, we're looking at the minimum, but he could obviously, in this case, we say Harei alai ola, you could bring the maximum as much as you like. It's only when you specify, I'm going to bring a certain animal, I'm going to bring black, I'm going to bring white, I'm going to bring this, I'm going to bring that, I'm going to bring a shore as an ola, then you can't change it. Says the Gemara, Tana Rabbanan, Harei alai ola b'sela lamizbeach. Going back on this last case, it's a similar case. I'm going to bring an ola, then you can bring anything you want. And we just told you what the cheapest is. But if I say I'm going to bring an ola, which is worth a sela on the mizbeach, yavi keves, then you have to bring the keves. Then I can't bring more because what? The only ola that's worth a sela, if I say harei alai ola, the minimum is a keves, but I can bring anything more. Harei alai ola b'sela, the only ola that's worth a sela is a keves. And therefore you have to bring a keves. Shein l'cha davar shekar b'sela gam mizbeach ela keves. However, if I say perashi ve'eni yodea ma perashti, I know that I'm going to bring an ola, and I know that I'm going to bring an ola b'sela, but I don't remember which ola b'sela I'm going to bring. What does that mean? Not an You're right. I said I'm going to bring not an ola, I'm sorry. I said I'm going to bring a korban. If I say I'm going to bring an ola with a sela, then I know which one that is. That's a keves. If I say I'm going to bring a korban that's worth a sela, but I don't remember which korban it is, then what? I have to bring a keves, because it might have been, again, now I got to bring all. Now it's not the minimum. Now if I say I said something specific, I got to bring every possible thing that can be brought on the mizbeach with a sela. So what do? I got to go into the dollar store, and I got to say, where's the section for korbanos? And anything in that section for korbanos in the dollar store, I got to bring now. Because it's not like when I said, Harei alai ola b'sela, now I figure out, well, what is that? Ola b'sela by definition means keves. Now I said, Harei alai korban b'sela. Now I got to bring not just any ola, which can be a sela, which is only a keves. I got to bring any korban that can theoretically be that can theoretically be a sela on the mizbeach. What's that? Well, it's obviously a keves. What else does it include? Says the Gemara. Yavi mikol davar shekar b'sela legabe hamizbech. What's that? That includes flour, not the mincha. You can't buy a whole mincha for a sela, but the flour part of a mincha you could buy in the dollar store, and the lavona you could buy in the dollar store. So you got to go in. If you walk into the dollar store and you ask for the korban section of $1, even though, bad example, because today nothing is $1 in the dollar store. But theoretically, back in the day, when everything in the dollar store was $1, was a sela, so you walked into that section and you saw by the korban sections, you would have found a keves, you would have found lavona, and you would have found the flour for mincha. You got to buy those three things because it could have been any of those three that you were peirashti.
But only up to a sela of value, no? In other words, what I have to take those, that sounds what you just said is like 3 sellas.
No, because again, I don't want to confuse. That's why I keep repeating. Peirashi, if I say harei alai ola b'sela, harei alai ola, you bring the minimum.
Yeah.
Harei alai ola b'sela, if there was a minimum that was less than a sela, you can't bring it because you specified harei alai. So whatever you say, the more general you are, the more makel we could be. Harei alai ola, we could let you bring the minimum one. Harei alai ola b'sela. So now we got to figure out which ola is a sela, the keves. Harei alai korban b'sela. Now we got to find all possibilities of a korban that's a sela, because again, peirashti ve'ena yodei. He didn't say harei alai. He said peirashti ve'ena yodei ma peirashti. I promised to bring some korban worth a sela on the mizbeach. I don't remember which one. So now we got to follow all the possibilities because
You're bringing 3 sellas.
So now you're bringing 3 selas because, but it's the same way that.
Exactly the opposite of what he said.
No, it's not. Peirash. No. Peirashti ve'ena yodei ma peirashti. It's not harei alai ola b'sela. It's that well, again, even in the case of harei alai ola b'sela, if there would be more than one ola that's b'sela, you'd have to bring whatever that is. Peirashi ve'ena yodei ma peirashi. I know that I promised to bring a sela on the mizbeach, some korban with a sela, but I don't remember what. So now we say, well, was it the lavona? Was it the keves? Was it the flour? I don't remember. So we want to make sure that you were yotze your neder. You got to bring all 3. It's like any other case where we make you bring more than one.
They're punctuating, I guess, the part that's not about the sela.
It's not about the sela. It is because it's about finding any korbanos out there that are worth a sela. You don't have to bring any korban. You have to bring any korbanos out there that's a sela, any possibility. So you don't usually specify so much that you say a korban with a sela. We usually say I'm going to bring a mincha, a voluntary mincha. So now what do? So we didn't specify an amount. So now you got to bring all 5 of the voluntary minchas because it could have been any of those 5. Over here, we're a little bit more specific, where we know not because if we say I'm going to bring a korban and I don't remember which one, you got to bring every korban in the world, like we just saw. At least here, the saving grace is actually the fact that you remember that it's a sela. Because if you don't remember that it's a sela, now you got to go bring every single possible korban in the world. Here, at least you remember that it's going to be a korban, and the korban that you remember giving was worth a sela. So now we just got to look at the chart or look at the dollar store and say, okay, every korban. It's the same exact thing as the 5. It's just here you specified a certain amount. But you're right. At the end of the day, you're bringing more than a sela. You're bringing every single one that's worth a sela. That's what the Gemara says.
It's the same principle.
It's the same principle as the menachos. Same principle we've had all along. Which is how we added the extra dimension here of mentioning money, which again came back to help you in this case. Because if you would have just said peirashti korban ve'eni yodei ma peirashti, I remember that I promised a korban. I don't remember which one. Okay, go into the dollar store and buy every korban there. Go into not the dollar store. Now you got to go into an expensive store and buy all the korbanos in the dollar store and all the korbanos in the expensive store. At least here, you have the saving grace where I said I'm going to bring a korban and I at least remember that it's a sela. That much I remember. Now we can say, okay, you don't have to buy every korban in the world. You can just buy all the korbanos in the dollar store.
My point.
I understand what you're saying. It's coming out.
It should have been 1/3 of a sela and the korban that's 1/3 of a sela.
No, that's what you're missing because at the end of the day, you promised to bring a korban that's worth a sela. If you bring 1/3 of a sela and 1/3 of a sela, 1/3 of a sela, you didn't bring a korban that's worth a sela. You brought 3 korbanos, each worth 1/3 of a sela. You need to make sure that you cover all your bases. That's why here, you should just be able to bring 1/5 of this mincha and 1/5 of this mincha and 1/5 of this. You can't do that because then you didn't bring a mincha at all. Here you got to bring all 5 minchas, even though you only said 1, 4 of them are nedavas. That's what we said. Here too, you got to bring all 3. 2 of them will be nedavas. But at the end of the day, the one that you brought, at least you'll make sure that you cover your bases. Says the Gemara. Pirashi min abakar ve'eni yodei ma pirashi yavi par ve'eg. We're going to stop at the 2 dots here. But again, so now the question becomes, let's think this through for a second. I promised to bring an ola from bakar. What are the possibilities? Either an adult or a young male, a par or an egel, right? What do you need to bring? Both a par and an egel. What's the problem with that? It's not a problem, but what did we say at the very end of the Mishnah? The last thing we said in the Mishnah, according to Rebbe, if I say I'm going to bring a small one, right?
Bring a big one for it.
What? According to Rebbe, if I say I'm going to bring a small one, I can't bring a big one. So this makes sense according to Rebbe.
No.
If I say I'm going to bring a small one, I can't bring a big one. So this makes sense according to Rebbe that if I say I'm going to bring Perashi min abakar ve'eni yodea ma perashi, you got to bring both. A par and an egel, because if I would bring the par, I can't be yotze in case I said egel. But according to the Rabbanan, who said what? That if I promise an egel, I can bring a par. So why when I promise an ola, and I don't remember which one, I promised bakar as an ola, and I don't remember which one, according to Rabbanan, I shouldn't have to bring an egel and a par. But MENACHOS, I should be able to bring a par. I can't bring an egel, because I might have promised a par. But if I promised an egel, then what's the problem? If I bring a par, and I really promised a par, I'm good. If I bring a par and I promise an egel, I'm good also, according to Rabbanan, because I upgraded. So it must be that this part of the Bryce, this part of the Mishnah is like who? This is like Rebbe. It must be the only reason you need to bring a par and an egel is because you're not allowed to upgrade. If you can't upgrade, now I got to cover all my possibilities. I got to bring both a par and an egel. Says the Gemara, Amai v'leise par miman shach. Why don't you just bring a par, and either way, either you promised, again, I promised a bucker, that's all I know. I promised a bucker as an ola. What are the two possibilities that you promised? You either promised a par or an egel, the old one or the young one. Says the Gemara, you got to bring both. Amai, why? V'leise par miman shach. Bring the par, and what? If it was that you promised a par, you brought the par. If you promised the egel, then you upgraded to a par. What's the problem? Hamani, who's this? It must be that this is Rebbe he. Da'amar katan v'hevi gadol lo yatsa. It must be that it's Rebbe who says you can't upgrade. If you can't upgrade, then of course I can't just bring a par. Because if I was supposed to bring an egel, now I'm not bringing an egel. Says the Gemara, there's only one problem. I Rebbe ema seifa. If it's Rebbe, then our Mishnah does not read well. Sure, b'mane v'hevi shnai b'mane lo yatsa b'afilu zeh b'mane chaser dina v'zeh b'mane chaser dina shachar v'hevi lavan v'hevi shachor gadol v'hevi katan lo yatsa katan v'hevi gadol yatsa Rebbe Omer lo yatsa Reisha v'sefer Rebbe mitziyusa rabbanan in Reisha v'sefer Rebbe mitziyusa rabbanan v'halchi kamar davar zeh machlokes Rebbe b'rabbanan. What's we saying in English? Turn back for a second. Kuf Zayin, and we'll end with this. Look at the Mishnah in Kuf Zayin. Harei alai ola yavi keves Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah Omer or tor or ben Yona. Fine, that's a separate machlokes. What was cheapest in their place? Peirashti min habakar ve'eni yodea ma peirashti. Yavi par ve'egel. Who's that? Who's that? You got to bring a par and an egel. Who's that? That's Rebbe. Read the rest of the Mishnah now. It doesn't now say somebody else has anything. So now what do we assume when we read the rest of the Mishnah? This is all Rebbe. Keep reading the Mishnah. Good, good, good. Keep reading. Keep reading. Shor b'mana, yavi this. Keves b'sela, yavi this. We're still within Rebbe. Hevi lavan, lavan vevi shachar. We're still within Rebbe. Gadol vevi katan lo yatsa. Katan vevi gadol yatsa. Who is that Rebbe? No, it's not Rebbe Omer lo yatsa. So says the Gemara, it comes out that what? The Reisha is Rebbe. We clearly, without saying it in the Mishnah, switch to the Rabbanan at some point, which is this opinion of Katan Vehevi Gadol, Yatsa. Then we switch back to Rebbe, Lo Yatsa. Says the Gemara, fine. The Gemara just wants to point out to you that if you were reading it like a book, then we don't read Gemara, we don't read Mishnah like a book. Because if you're reading like a book, you would assume the whole Mishnah is Rebbe. It's only one problem. The last 5 words say Rebbe Omer. Clearly, something beforehand wasn't Rebbe. And that's what it says. Yes, the Reish is Rebbe, the way that we're explaining now, because it would have been much more glad to say that the Reish is Rabbanan, and then we just have Rebbe come in at the very end of the Mishnah. We're saying, no, we have to explain that if you're saying par ve'egel, there's no way to explain it but to say that that's Rebbe's opinion. Because according to Rabbanan, you would not have to bring a par and egel. You can get away with just bringing a par. That's how it goes. So the beginning of the Mishnah over there, Perashi is Rebbe. Then you switch back to the Rabbanan, who say that you can't go ahead and who said that you can upgrade. And then we're back to Rebbe, who says that you can't upgrade. And then we're able to explain this whole Mishnah. Shkayach.